All right, welcome to my series, Starting a Side Hustle for Beginners. I'm just sharing a tip a day in the checklist of things you need to get done to get a side hustle off the ground. So follow along if you're interested in doing that. Okay, today is day 8, and my tip for today is sales tax. You need to look up if you are required within your area, whether that be county, city, state, whatever, to charge sales tax on party rental equipment, if that's the side hustle that you're doing. Let me be your cautionary tale in this one, because when I first started our game truck business years ago, 3.5 years ago, I got online and I was reading about the taxes that you are required to charge. And it's kind of ambiguous, the wording, and it made it seem like things that are rented, you did not have to pay tax on, because I'm not selling a product, they're renting a product. I actually called the Arizona Tax Bureau, whatever they're called, and was like, hey, am I reading this correctly? It seems like for this business, I'm not required to charge sales tax. And the person that I talked to was like, oh yeah, you're good. You don't need to do that. Okay, that's awesome. Fast forward down the road, I get a call from a state, I don't know if he's a tax auditor or something, that was like, why have you not been charging sales tax? You owe us back taxes for any sales you've done over the last year on your business. And I read the statute to him and I said, so that would leave us exempt. We don't need it. And I called and asked somebody and they said no. And he was like, whoever you talk to, there's always a disclaimer when you call that any info they give you is not legally binding. And he was like, I'm sorry, they did not know what they were talking about. That's not legally binding. You owe us sales tax. In the state of Arizona, though, they don't require business licenses to do the majority of business, but apparently what they do require is something called TPT taxes, which is transaction privilege tax, which basically means you have to charge taxes for the privilege of doing business in the state of Arizona. And I was unaware, and I even called and thought I didn't have to, and they said, no, you absolutely do. Rental equipment falls under some sort of purview where you absolutely have to pay sales tax on that. So I owed back taxes for that year, which was a lot of fun. Do not get yourself into that predicament. So you need to look up if you have to charge sales tax in your state. You may even want to consult an attorney to find out for sure, so you do not end up in the situation that I was in. Then what you're going to do is, whoever your credit card processor is, you can just go in and set up that it automatically adds sales tax to every invoice that you send out. So you would have to figure out what your sales tax rate is for your area. Again, do your own due diligence. I am not an attorney and this is not legal advice, but you need to find out what that is, and then you can go in and set up that it's just automatically added onto your invoices, so that when it sends out, people are paying that tax without you having to ever remember to do it. Another tip would be, at least in Arizona, the sales taxes here are due quarterly. So every 3 months, you have to go in and pay all the sales taxes that you have collected. I would highly advise starting a second business, either savings or checking, where maybe at the end of every week, you are looking at the amount of sales tax you've collected and pulling that out and putting it into your account. Because if you're doing a large amount of business, there are some months where our TPT taxes are like $2,500 to $3,000. If it just sits in your account, it looks like it's extra money, and it is not, because you got to pay that at the end. So I would highly advise having a separate account that you're just moving tax funds into, so that you are not spending them and they're not looking like revenue that you have just sitting in your account. Okay, ask me any questions you've got.